Hello to everybody assembled virtually in Manchester, a city of beautiful memories for me. My name is Radoslav Zuk, Emeritus Professor Peter Guohua Fu School of Architecture at McGill University in Montreal. My presentation is titled Image, Organization, and Nine Systems of Built Form, a conceptual structure for architectural design and research. And it's dedicated to the memory of the distinguished alumnus of the Manchester School of Architecture, famous architectural historian and theorist, Peter Collins, a highly respected colleague and loyal friend. Our environment consists of a multitude of elements, roads, bridges, fences, and so on. But the vast majority are buildings, vernacular houses, barns, and sheds built by trained or untrained craftsmen following examples perfected over generations, as well as urban ensembles of contiguous buildings for communal and dwelling purposes from different periods designed by highly skilled architects. Along with these, there are countless freestanding buildings, some by acknowledged masters such as Andrea Palladio, Le Corbusier, and others, who with these and other projects provide valuable examples of their prodigious theoretical ideas. When examining such buildings and texts, it becomes obvious that architectural design is a highly complex and daunting task. To have the ability to understand all the key aspects of a project, to see them creatively all at once in one's mind, and to externalize them in a relevant and imaginative form is the mark of one who may be referred to as genius. This gift is given only to very few, yet all architectural designers wish to possess it. This wish leads to pressures that have serious implications in design education. The designer's constant attempts to produce unique projects, emphasis on invention, the desperate search for a single shape as a concept end up all too often in idiosyncratic, non-contextual, shallow, and simplistic designs, fit more for eccentric museum installations than for responsive, and sensitive environmental intentions. The absence of a comprehensive design theory in the past half century or so, and the fascination with and imitation of the usually arbitrary productions of contemporary star designers have added to the present loss of orientation. However, a rigorous analysis of projects and writings of past and present masters may lead again to an all-inclusive theory of architectural design applicable to any project. A comprehensive design structure, image, organization, and 9 systems of built form has served for a number of years as a guide in my own design practice and teaching, constantly evolving and based on a variety of studies, observations, and experimentations. It allows for the application of relevant research to a wide range of the component design considerations, from the most poetic to the most pragmatic. The Conceptual design structure, image organization, and built form is used as a scheme to organize the design, and it can be examined by research of existing projects, as mentioned. So the general configuration, character, and meaning of the built form are determined by an appropriate image and organization derived from the cultural, physical, and programmatic context of a project. Image may be seen as containing three principal aspects: idea, or partie, for the physical structuring of the project community; experience or appearance of the project as an object in the landscape and of its spaces; symbol, the meaning of cultural, geographic, and functional context of the project. The organization may be seen as being determined by three types of criteria: usage of the project by different types of users; environment as an amenity to be enjoyed from various spaces and in various spaces; construction, volumetric, and services needs of diverse spaces. The built form is based on a relevant image and an appropriate organization, and is a convincing integration of the component ordering systems, and thus a meaningful built form may be conceived. 9 such systems may be distinguished and divided into 3 groups: movement, space types, growth and change; space and mass, geometry and closure; services, structure, materials. As have been stated already, image constitutes the initial concept, suggesting not only possible plan and spatial configurations, but also proposing materials, geometries, and other elements appropriate for the project's program and its cultural and environmental contexts. Organization constitutes a loose 3-dimensional relationships diagram of all spaces in the program in reference to the site approximately to scale. Built form presents the configurations of all systems and their comprehensive integration to scale. It is crucial that all of the above aspects are initially stated, but allow for adjustment and coordination, thus avoiding the all too frequent lineal process in which a preconceived shape is adhered to while being awkwardly planned and built. It should be stated that here the notion of system implies a coherent entity of distinct identity. According to Arnold Schoenberg, perhaps the most influential composer and theorist in 20th century music, coherence is what binds individual phenomena into forms. The artistic exploitation of coherence aims at comprehensibility. Half a millennium earlier, Leon Battista Alberti, whose projects and writing influenced so decisively the development of Western architecture, proposed his famous definition of beauty. Beauty, or we can say a comprehensive systems integration, is that reasoned harmony of all the parts within a body, so that nothing may be added, taken away, or altered, but for the worse. It is a great and holy matter. All our resources of skill and ingenuity will be taxed in achieving it. My course on analysis and theory aims at discovering universal design principles by examining the built productions of recognized masters in history and recent times according to the scheme just described. This might be considered suspect by those who believe that intellectual considerations in design stifle creativity. I had similar reservations in school and in early professional days, but soon discovered the opposite. This is what Le Corbusier, perhaps the most creative architect of the 20th century, had to say on the matter. The Greek, the Egyptian, Michelangelo or Blondel employed regulating lines. The man of today employs nothing at all, but he proclaims that he is a free poet and that his instincts suffice. The great Alberti was even more direct. There are some who will say that men are guided by a variety of opinions, and that the forms and structures must vary according to every man's particular taste and fancy, and not be tied down to any rules of art. A common thing with the ignorant to despise what they do not understand. Here on this poster of the announcement of the course, the main aim is stated: graphic analysis of key aspects of major recent and historical works of architecture with reference to their designers' architectural theories as an introduction to the formulation of one's own comprehensive theory of design. An example of such an analysis of Le Corbusier's La Tourette Monastery by Marie Orangi. It starts with a presentation of the external appearance of the building, follows by general considerations of Le Corbusier's theories. And here what should be noted is that on the right-hand column, in the right-hand column, there is usually in bold the investigator's understanding of what is involved, followed by a smaller font of quotations, references to literature. The presentation includes plans and sections of the project, and then the three presentations of the three image components: idea, which may be a reference to precedents, maybe to a composition by an artist, which then suggests the general overall structuring of the main elements of the building. Experience shows the appearance of the building, or possible similar appearances which might have influenced this particular project, or in the case of design, would influence the designer, both of the building in the landscape and also the appearance of the major interior spaces. And symbol are the elements within the building, its overall structuring, its particular details, colors, materials, technology used, which are expressive of the time and place and purpose of the building. The organization deals with the position of the main functional parts of a building with respect to each other and to the external landscape. And then the 9 systems are examined on whether they have the coherence appropriate to a system. And of course, this analysis can also be critical in every one of the systems of how the architect achieved or did not achieve the desired ideal system coherence. Movement, grouping of space types, potential for growth and change, minimal in this case, but still there may be some places where it could be achieved. The building as sculpture, space and mass, the relationship of light and configuration. Geometry, the central and most important element in structuring, in an abstract sense, work of art or architecture. Enclosure, the vertical surface patterns of elevations, the ceilings and the floor patterns, if there are visible. The services or the distribution of air and heat, sometimes it has to be conjectured and assumed. The structural system and the material systems, the relationships of various materials that meet in intersections with the ground, with adjacent floors or building elements, followed by conclusions and a bibliography. The design studies of a program, given program, to see the application of the systems configuration are examined in a program, in this case, a conference center for McGill University on its campus on the lakefront by student Xiandi Aster Kai. And what we see here is the idea somehow that plank of deck jutting into the water became the principal sort of shape that she used. The experience is one of water, predominantly a beach. And the symbol is one of a group of interested participants in how they relate to the town and to the water, symbolic of that particular location and purpose. The organization is a relationships diagram of the program components, and it's shown here by the functional relationships of the program participants, the relationship to the environment, back to the campus, towards the water and along the water, and the building requirements of the building fabric, where small elements are grouped together, separated from the large ones in order to be able to apply the appropriate structural and accommodation requirements. And then the proposal for movement, for the grouping of space types, for growth and change. And you can see that it can theoretically expand left and right. Space and mass, three-dimensional configuration, geometry in terms of proportional systems for the spaces and for the entire building, the enclosure, elevations in this case, and maybe the roof surface, the services, heating and ventilation, and the structural system, and the materials, the tectonics part of how materials come together and articulate the building, and bibliography. In summer courses in Italy, which I initiated in Venice, as well as the course Architecture and Geometry, are paralleled by research on the most abstract yet central of the nine systems: geometric structures and determinants of formal environmental quality in architecture, with special reference to comparable structures in music. And here, just one example from urban structure analysis eh, of green spaces in Venice with the amazing straight line relationship and proportional distances of major green spaces in the lagoon city, and also their relationship to, let's say, the canal and the extensions of the building. In practice, I follow the image organization nine system structure and have designed, among other projects, 9 Ukrainian Catholic churches in North America and one in Ukraine, in association with or as consultant to a number of architectural firms. Most of the projects built have been published in the international architectural press and exhibited widely in North America and Europe, and 2 have received special distinctions: the Royal Architecture Institute of Canada Governor General's Medal and the State Prize of Ukraine for Architecture, respectively. I shall now try to show in capsule form the image organization nine systems applied in the design of these projects. Holy, you're in trouble here. The first project I'm showing is an unusual church in the Catskill Mountains north of New York City, in a small town called Kerhonkson, where there is also a summer resort. We see here the main body of the building on the right, the bell tower on the left in its wooden surroundings, and a courtyard which can be seen here. I don't know if you see the pointer, the altar area, and then an evolving spiral leading to a glass wall, which in the wintertime is closed for the smaller winter community and opens in the summer for the larger community, which may be standing in it. The idea is one of an evolving community, of perhaps the space travel of our days, in other words, a reference to today. And the experience is one of a building in the forest with pronounced vertical articulation, as seen in this vernacular church in Ukraine. The symbol is of the geographic setting, the forest, of available materials, wood, and of the characteristic configuration or rhythmic pattern of Ukrainian churches throughout history. As we can see here, the vernacular building that I just showed you in the upper left-hand side, then on the right, a Renaissance building, on the left, a Byzantine building, and more Renaissance and Baroque buildings, all following a similar rhythmic structure. This is based on my research of abstract geometric structures as determinants of intrinsic cultural identity in architecture.
Right. So,
I hope we're not going
matrix.
to lose that, because we also have here perhaps the symbol of the Holy Trinity expressed in the equilateral triangle, which evolves progressively in size from the sanctuary all around the building to entrance from a lower level, mechanical pipe for the equipment, and then this open courtyard.
Matrix was created to compare the relationships
So
between.
here we see the the roof structure, which consists of beams which are parallel to each other and provide a constant span between them, but evolving and rising due to the distance from the outer columns, which are concrete columns cantilevered from the ground, to the steel columns around the sanctuary. So here we see the steel columns around the sanctuary, the light streaming from the tower above, and the
And
ceiling
visual
above
accuracy
as
along the
well. And from the outside, we see the long stretch of the I don't know what one would call it, colonnade, cantilevered, which define the courtyard. And here we see
visuals,
some
as
New
mentioned in the
Yorkers
previous
and
slide. Their
Philadelphians
responses.
enjoying a social meeting after the service. The building has been published in several publications. Here I show you a summary in progressive architecture. And here, in analysis of precedent, it found its place next to Brunelleschi's Patsy Chapel and Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Waters, I think, Le Corbusier's, what do we see here? Morehouse, Palace of Assembly by Le Corbusier, Woodland Chapel by Asplund, and I already mentioned the Patsy Chapel and Falling Water, which I think is a nice neighborhood.
As the pandemic was breaking out in London earlier this year in March, we had the
It's been
opportunity.
published, as I mentioned many times, in this article from Architectural Review. It was published also together with a church in Toronto. And I hope this is not going to run away from us. This is the Toronto Church, the Holy Eucharist Church.
A more stringent
And
design
here we
criteria.
see
These also happen to be schools that.
And here we see the geometric scheme, which is based on a whole number of musical proportions of the great Renaissance theorists. It consists of the main church building, a Sunday school behind, and a small monastery. It's run by a monastic order on the side under the bell tower entrance, which is placed here
These also happen to be schools
because
that
of the
follow the
site
King Studio approach for design.
configurations. Site configuration. And here we see what they called abstract geometry, where you can take a line which goes beyond the actual building element, and you can inscribe it in relationship to other elements and see that there is a sort of invisible geometric order derived from it.
King Studio approach for tactile
a view of the interior, a view
the
of the
overall response.
exterior. And here, a church which has received the Royal Architecture Institute of Canada Governor General's Medal in Calgary,
The overall response of students
and the Church of the Most Holy Theotokos,
You have to
State
and
State Prize of Ukraine for Architecture. And in conclusion, I would like to read you a statement of my principles. Significant architecture embodies the spirit of its geographic location, the intrinsic character of the people it serves, and the most advanced ideas and technological capabilities of humanity at a given time in history. Therefore, such architecture cannot be impersonal and sterile, nor can it be blatantly eclectic. It must maintain the substance of a specific cultural tradition, but transform it in a fresh, inventive, and relevant form. The task then is to create an architecture which responds to a specific cultural temperament and tradition, but at the same time is expressive of the given environmental setting and of the dynamism of the contemporary world spirit. But a complete architecture must also have its own autonomous presence. This implies an absolute architectural quality which transcends meaning, time, and place, and its essence constitutes the archetypal being of architecture. It is inherent in the imaginative and logical conception of each of a building's functional, perceptual, and tectonic systems, in their coherent integration, and in their proper relation to the immediate environment. If of a high order, it can by its inevitability enhance human existence, give it new moving insights, and raise it to poetic heights. It is this quality which distinguishes true vernacular architecture, great historical cities and buildings, as well as the best of our contemporary architecture. Thank you very much for your attention and all the best wishes to everyone. Thank you.